Hello and welcome to another episode of Another Look here on the River 953 Sports Radio 1450. I'm Dylan Nichols, news director here at the River 953. She is Janet Michael, host of the
Valley Today.
Yes. I love the way you say it. It's always very chirpy and happy and sort of, yes.
Because it's usually a happy show. It's always a happy show on the air. I can't always guarantee it's like that right before or right after.
No, but on the air, as far as everyone knows, it's a celebration.
It is.
Yes, of the Shenandoah Valley.
Of the community.
In case you guys aren't used to Another Look, this is our show where we talk about news that's been happening across the Shenandoah Valley, across our coverage area. And we just review the news that's been going on over the course of the week. We always do this on a Friday. Today is Friday, September 28th. And the only reason I say the date is because not only is this on air, but this also goes up on our website on the podcast page. You just go on the river953.com and click on podcasts, and you should find Another Look there. And guess what, Janet?
What?
Am I annoying you,
Janet?
Janet?
I've got my phone out and I'm looking because I want to count again how many episodes are on.
I was about to say, I counted earlier, 18 episodes.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Our first episode was May 18th, 2018, and it's called Sinkholes and Fajitas. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that one.
Yeah.
Just May, though. It feels like we've been doing this longer.
It really does.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah. Well.
I don't know, but it's I mean, what a legacy we've created. What a and for the listener,
that's the word I'd use, legacy.
Well, for us, it's a legacy, but for the listener, it's a treasure trove of content.
It is.
Janet, just chock full of stuff.
I know. I love it.
So, all right. So, what are we? I know you hit your mic.
Yeah.
So, what are we going to talk about this week? Why don't we start with some of the headlines that you picked out?
All right. Well, my headlines aren't nearly as exciting as yours. Well, one of them may be, but we'll see. Strasburg man runs over roommate with vehicle.
Now, that story is going to take about 2 minutes to tell.
Yeah.
But
well, that is, unless you want me to go into the list of roommates I wish I would have run over with a vehicle.
No, we all have those. Honestly, the second you read that headline, you know, if anyone's going to have a sympathetic jury, it's that guy.
Well, there is that.
We've all been there.
Parking exemptions cause Front Royal feud.
Yeah, now that's interesting. And where is that business?
The Virginia Beer Museum is on Chester Street.
Yeah.
In Front Royal.
And so that's interesting because everyone's pretty familiar with the Virginia Beer Museum at this point, and that got heated. I mean, that meeting got pretty heated. There's some gossip around that one.
I think maybe we should take this show on the road one week. And go sit at one of these meetings and in the back and then just kind of whisper like they do at the golf, like the golf guys do for like PGA tournaments. And you and I can be sitting in the back and say, ooh, can you believe he said that?
Except very tame. Yeah. And then we do like the soft little like.
Yeah, do play-by-play or live calling of town council meetings, Winchester City Council meetings.
We might be able to use our own Randy Woodward for there because, you know, we'll understand the bureaucracy that's going on, but he can play call.
Yeah.
He'll see what's happening on the field and be able to reiterate it back. That's the important part.
Yeah. And so my last one is Winchester Emergency Communication Center gets new technology. And we all know how much I love new technology.
Yeah, you do. But possibly to a fault. I mean, I got to say, because everyone's got their own sort of Ridley Scott conspiracy theory. The robots are going to take over. We're all doomed. Y2K, man, it's going to happen. If any of that is true, Y2K, okay, I get it. That fell by the wayside. But if any of the other parts of it are true, and the robots are going to take over, and the software is all going to get too much, and we're going to automate a little too much, and Janet, Michael, you're a dead man.
I emailed stuff to my printer at home today so that I did not have to print it and take it home for my husband. Technology is a beautiful thing. Yes.
Never try to run like a crime empire or anything because they'll have so many records, everything. You would try.
Well, see, that's my whole strategy. There's going to be so much that they would have to go through that they're just going to give up halfway through, and all of the really good stuff's going to be buried at the bottom, and they're never going to get to it.
Oh yeah. No, there'll be so many dozens of cocaine invoices. Just faxed from machine to machine to machine that they're just going to give up. Yeah, the James Comeys of the world are just going to be like,
okay,
throw
you know
their
what?
hands up
this
and go,
is it.
I quit. Oh, man. Oh, I love it.
So what are you talking about tonight?
I've got some, okay, obviously the big story, I think, I hesitate to say this every time, but I think the biggest story of the week, that the replacement for the Robert E. Aylor School got denied extra funding.
It was my biggest story of the week, personally.
It was your biggest story of the week, to the point where you were actually, and you can talk about this when we talk about it, because you were actually over there. You found Frederick County's Board of Supervisors YouTube account, and you were able to actually watch the hearing because you were that interested and see, I don't know if heated's the word, but there was some debate back and forth, and people weren't happy. So interesting stuff there. The other stuff that I've got, VDOT is expanding its I-81 improvement plans because of a lot of backlash it got. So we'll talk about that for a little bit.
Now, is that related to what we were talking about last week with them spending $900,000 but not wanting to go $1.3 million, or is this a totally different project for VDOT?
Totally different.
Okay.
Yeah, this is VDOT's really like kind of helping a developer with that project, from what I understand, and it's kind of that's a flyover for 81. This is about improving 81.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then we're also going to talk about, and we'll probably touch on this briefly because there's not much of a story to it. It's just very interesting and cool. Winchester Public Schools got some good news. Teacher turnover rates declined.
Yay!
Which is big. And everybody in the Shenandoah Valley seems to have the same problem, to the point of teachers leaving for better salaries elsewhere, to the point where I wonder if how much they're competing against each other and how much. But,
yeah, well, and the big one here are a lot of teachers in the Shenandoah Valley leave to go to Loudoun County. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing, because you do get a lot, but they have a higher pay scale, and it's not that far in the grand scheme of a commute. So
it really isn't. It's pretty competitive. So we got a lot of news. And the other thing actually that just broke today, man, I can't even believe I didn't think to print it out or include it, but Shenandoah Public Schools, they got full accreditation of all their schools for the first time in 5 years. It was announced Thursday, I believe.
Yep. And I saw Frederick County also is fully accredited. See, I didn't print it because I can say accredited, but I can't say accreditation.
Yeah. Oh, believe me.
So that's why it wasn't one of my stories.
Believe me, Janet, my life is practicing accreditation in front of the mirror. Like, that's my whole life. It's really, it was a huge success for the Shenandoah Valley, and it's all based upon these new guidelines they're using. Because they're not just going by standards of learning. They're incorporating absenteeism, graduation rates, dropout rates, all that different stuff to add to the success. And we talked about that in relation to the Strasburg school fights, where they changed actually their suspension policy so they would have less absenteeism. So very interesting stuff. And so it's been successful for Shenandoah County has been successful this year in getting all of its schools accredited. And the only school that actually missed full accreditation was Skyline in Warren County.
Really?
Yeah, which was really interesting to me.
I didn't know that.
So that's a little tidbit on that for you. We're not going to get into detail on that, obviously, because we didn't pick it as one of our stories, but because it just happened today.
But it's on the website, so they can go read it.
That's right. What's our website name, Janet?
Okay, so I'm going to do a pet peeve of mine. So if any of my former guests are listening right now, please don't take this personally. I always feel awkward if I have to correct you. There is no need to say www. When you're giving a website on the radio, you can simply say theriver953.com.
Who says www?
Well, my guest today did. Actually, and she got stopped and only said ww.
That's worse. That's a little worse, yeah.
But that's not something everybody knows. So there's your little piece of technology, social media advice, free advice for the night. So you don't have to say www.
Yeah, so our website is www.theriver953.com, so check it out, guys. We're going to come right back with all these stories in our first segment. I think I'm going to go first and talk about my stories when we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
Welcome back to some more Another Look, our news and review show for the Shenandoah Valley, where we take a look at news that's been developing across the Shenandoah Valley over the course of the last week. And we tell you a little bit about it in case you missed the news stories. And we also discuss our own opinions about it and just kind of have a fun time. I'm Dylan Nichols, news director here at the River 953, Sports Radio 1450. She's Janet Michael, host of The Valley Today.
Award-winning,
inestimable, tremendous, unfathomable Valley Today. Oh, man. And if you're just joining us now and you missed our header segment, that's fine. Go ahead to our podcast page. That's on theriver953.com. I'm sorry, www.theriver953.com. There are a lot of different World Wide Web, so you got to be able to make sure that that's the World Wide Web that we're talking about. Right? Isn't that how the internet works, Janet? You're the social media expert, so you have to tell me. Maybe we should just call. See, there's no shortage of me being able to get under Janet's skin because she's the SEO expert. She gets search engine optimization. She gets the technology.
For the award-winning www.theriver953.com. Or as a news director I know says, .com.
Honestly, when you submit again to the VABs and the AP Awards, the website, please put www.theriver. Do you put www in those submissions?
Well, when I send it to them, I have to send the entire thing, so it has to have the HTTP and the whole. I actually just open the website, hit copy, and
hold on a second. Should we be saying http://www.theriver953.com?
You should.
All right, enough of this nonsense. Let's get to the news.
Oh, yeah, guys.
We said this was a news and review show. Janet, let's give the listeners what they want.
All right.
Let's talk about this Aylor thing.
Yeah.
This was a big deal, and you might have more on this than I do because you watched the footage from that Frederick County Board of Supervisors meeting where they voted, and it was a close vote. 4-3 to deny extra funding to Aylor. In case you've not been following the Robert E. Aylor story, basically the supervisors have been going back and forth with the school board on this, trying to decide how much money exactly should be allocated to a project to replace the Robert E. Aylor Middle School, which is just experiencing terrible elevated CO2 levels and all sorts of problems, very expensive to maintain, lots of stuff. So finally, they landed on a reduced price of $45.5 million for the school because it seemed for a while like maybe this replacement won't get done yet, or maybe they'll miss the deadline. So we were like, I think Frederick County kind of breathed a sigh of relief, saying it's through. We're at least getting the school. But now it's gone down to the dollars and cents because the school board, wanted $7.5 million more than that. They wanted $53 million for the school. And the reason they wanted $53 million is because they wanted to make the school 160,000 square feet because the Frederick Board of Supervisors and they agreed that it should be able to accommodate 900 students. And they said 160,000 square feet was the magic number where we can do that. We can do it comfortably with room to expand. Now, they're saying you can do it in 140,000 square feet. You can accommodate the 900 students is what the Board of Supervisors is saying. And that is the kind of building that this money, $45.5 million, is going to build. So we thought maybe they'd get the money later on. It seemed like there was some talk about it.
They probably still will.
They probably still will. I mean, what do you think about all this? Because this vote went down, and now it's stuck for now at $45.5 million again. What do you think?
Well, when I saw it earlier, and so, of course, I remembered when we were talking about this last week that I wanted to know how my particular supervisor had voted then, whether I'm out to have the public hearing, because that was, I think, a point of contention when we did our show a couple of weeks ago, because we've covered this several weeks in a row, I think.
Yeah.
So I went to look at the meeting minutes. I saw that you said that it had been denied, so I thought I'm going to go pull up supervisor meeting minutes and see who voted which way for what, and the meeting minutes weren't on the website. But the link to their YouTube channel was.
Ooh.
And that's where they put the videotape of the video footage of these supervisor meetings. So I was able to watch I could watch the entire meeting, but I needed to be awake. So, and after, so I flipped through to the public hearing portion and got to see who thought what and what their justifications were in favor of, against, and got to see all of the people who came out and spoke. One person spoke against, and I think 9 other people spoke in favor of, including students from Aylor Middle School. How many? Which was so heartwarming.
You were telling me this. How many students did it look like came?
I think there were 3 or 4. There were several, and some of them looked very young. So my guess is one of them, I think, probably was a 6th grader. Wow. And then some of the other ones, one of the girls told of an instance that happened somewhat recently of a friend of hers who had an asthma attack. in school because of the poor quality of air that they have at Aylor. So, but everybody was in favor. Teachers came out and spoke. Parents came out and spoke.
My lawyer is tapping me on the shoulder, advising me that we can't make that claim on air. But it's food for thought, and that's what she was saying.
Yes.
That's what she was arguing there. So, anyways, now that we've gotten the liability thing out of the way, no, still the CO2 levels were absolutely a gigantic problem. It absolutely needed to be replaced. I think everyone was in agreement with that.
Yes.
Now, this budgeting thing, the square footage thing, that's different. But there was something interesting that your supervisor said, because Gary Lofton's your supervisor, right? Mm-hmm. That was the sassiest I've ever heard come from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He basically said that actually Virginia Department of Education standards are 120,000 square feet to accommodate 900 students. And so he actually said that, look, 140,000 square feet is actually above and beyond the requirements of the VDOE, those minimum requirements.
Minimum. Because, that's our standard now. Minimum.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
minimum air quality, minimum,
Well, okay. There's a difference between minimum air quality and pollution. But it's
apparently not when you're walking through the halls at Aylor.
I mean, it is a difficult thing because, and just to give you the Frederick County Board of Supervisors' point of view on this, it's not a bunch of craven, evil old men over there. I mean, they're legitimately concerned about the taxpayer and the amount of debt that they're already in. And I don't have the number in front of me, but it's a staggering amount of debt that they already have on their shoulders. They're concerned about adding to that. They need to be able to accommodate 900 students. And if they're reading that the VDOE standards are 120,000 square feet, you do need to take into account what your school board is saying. But that itself is really interesting to me. The fact that there's such a vast difference between what the Virginia Department of Education is telling the Board of Supervisors and what its own school board is telling the Board of Supervisors. Is that a problem, do you think? Hard to say, but do you think it's a problem with Virginia and Virginia's standards? Or do you think that the school board is in a better position to know the needs of the kids in that school? Okay.
I think that the Virginia Department of Education sets forth these standards based on the state of Virginia as a whole, and they are a guideline. When I saved the PDF that had the Virginia Department of Education's quality standards in it, the file name it defaulted to was guidelines. Every individual school system is going to have a different situation. They're going to have a different set of issues that they're going to have to deal with. They're going to have land issues. They're going to have student population issues. They're going to have special education needs. So yeah, I think in most cases, you need to depend on your local school boards who are in the weeds and can say, look, we're telling you, we've done the research. This is what we need. This is what should happen.
And in talking about depending on them, though, I have to say I think this whole thing started. I think it started in the beginning with the school board drastically making that $7.5 million change in their estimate, because they originally estimated it would only cost around $45, I believe, when they first came to the school to the supervisors with the budget proposal, and then they came back and said, actually, it looks like it's going to be more like 53, and I think that got the supervisors' guard up.
Yeah.
I think when they saw such a drastic change, they went, hold on, and began questioning everything, looking up the stats. I think they started out trusting the school board, but because the school board changed drastically, and I'm not accusing the school board by any means. I mean, I know so little about this. I'm not on the ground there, so I'm not accusing the school board of trying to bloat it at all.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of that was because they knew they were up against this deadline. And so the school board said, well, we've got to get some numbers together. They may not be the right numbers or have everything included in them, but we're not going to get anything if we don't get something.
Well, that's what it sounds like happened. They didn't do the amount of research as intensely as they've done it once they said, hey, we've secured something, we're ready to go. Let's get into the weeds on this thing. So Interesting story, but you think that they might get it later on?
At some point, there are going to be overruns, and this is some of the things that they even discussed during the supervisors meeting was that there are going to be cost overruns. Construction costs are going to be higher once they start, breaking ground and building this school. Some of the supervisors said, we're in a decent economy right now. We have the ability to maybe get good deals on some things right now. So why wouldn't we go ahead and just do it right now versus where are we going to be in 4 years and this debt could be twice as bad as what we're thinking it's going to be. I don't know. It's
funny too because it almost makes you question what the point is of these budget meetings if overruns can happen and there's nothing you can do about it and they just happen and they get the money.
Well, and several of the supervisors, my supervisor included, kept saying that taxpayer dollars and that the taxpayers to the taxpayers. Shannon Trout pointed out that there was only one person against at this meeting, 9 in favor of. And over the last 8 months since this whole discussion has started, they have received less than 2 or 3 people against and dozens of people who are in favor of it, including people who aren't even in the district. I'm not in that district. So it's not going to impact me personally other than my tax dollars as a Frederick County resident are going to help go to fund it. So I was all over, Shannon Trout. She wants to come do a show with me. She can come to a Valley today.
All right, let's talk real quick about VDOT. VDOT,
Yes.
I-81. I know, it's a headache. And it's terrible. And every single time, and I've not been on that road in a while. I went to JMU for 4 years, got my bachelor's degree there, so I used to go up and down 81 all the time. It got to a point where I was desensitized. And then now, when I go back on I-81 after not going back for a period of a few months, it's like Mad Max. So, now VDOT did a look at I-81. They're trying to evaluate the safety of 81, where they should change.
Did they give it another look?
I think VDOT gave I-81 another look. That's correct. Title drop.
Yeah.
TheRiver953.com. www.
Stop it.
All right. So basically, they have been looking and doing a safety evaluation, safety study of 81. That included Frederick County, of course, because 81 is, a big part of Frederick County, or a big part of 81's in Frederick County. And long story short, they came back with some recommendations, and Frederick County was not happy, and there was an uproar, and complaints went in to VDOT, and now it looks like they're actually taking a closer look at exit 317 in particular, widening I-81 to exit 317, and making some changes there for safety because of the public outcry that they got. Mm-hmm. That's big news. And the other thing that came with that is Frederick County is still not satisfied because the Frederick County Transportation Board voted on a resolution asking the Commonwealth Transportation Board for improvements from exit 315 to the West Virginia state line. So they want even more. And so they've sent that in. Now, coincidentally, Frederick County is announcing its annual transportation forum, but the format has changed. And now there will be no formal question and answer session. Instead, citizens will be able to engage one-on-one with elected officials.
I'm totally going to that.
And, I mean, is that not going to... And so that's... I don't know. Do you think that's them reacting in part to Frederick's concerns and the fact that they did the study and then all these people told them you missed something? Do you think they think the one-on-one format will be more conducive to them never doing that again?
I don't know. I'm curious to see the difference. Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of other variables at play. We're only talking about this sliver of I-81, but still.
Well, because
interesting.
On the opposite end of Frederick County, on my end of Frederick County, where you're just going into Shenandoah County, it is a nightmare at that exit where 66 merges in and merges out. There are accidents there weekly. Weekly, there are accidents either from people getting off 66 onto 81 heading into Strasburg, which is Shenandoah County, or people coming off of 66 coming into Middletown and coming into Frederick County. That's going to be a mess. So they're going to have to start addressing some of these issues.
They need to do something, but it's all probably years away. So So
you just have to do what I do. I had my show yesterday, had a meeting in Winchester at 2:30, pouring down rain. It's gross. It's nasty outside. I left here to go to the other side of Winchester and literally went through town, went to Reliance Road, went to Route 11. It took me an hour to get from the station to Westminster Canterbury on the other side of town. But I did it because it was still better.
I'd almost rather
than 81 in the rain, no less. So,
yeah, that's a long time though.
Yeah, and
That's
I
a
don't
long
want my
time.
tax dollars going to 81 anymore. I want it to go to Aylor. Can I write? I'm gonna. Yeah.
I think those are different kind of pools. But, it's all the same thing. Money's money, right?
I'm going to start writing it on the check. 10% of this goes here, 10% of this goes here, and 80% of it goes here.
All right, we're running out of time for this segment, but I wanted to touch on one other thing we said we talk about. I just want to say it real quick. Quick shout out to Winchester Public Schools because their teacher turnover rates are declining. That is a huge problem that these schools face, keeping good teachers, making their salaries competitive. So it was 20.25% teacher turnover rate. A fifth of teachers were leaving in the 2016-2017 school year. That's declined to just 13.5%.
Wow.
That's a huge improvement, percentage-wise. The next year after that, we're obviously still in the process of this year. So that's huge. They're competing with Loudon, like you said, but they're also competing with Frederick, and Frederick took 3 of their teachers last year.
Yeah. All of them are doing a phenomenal job on social media. I see so many teachers that are on Twitter now tweeting pictures of their kids, both city schools and Frederick County schools. It is amazing to see what these teachers are doing with the kids these days.
It is. So we're excited about that, but we're about out of time for this segment. We're going to come back real quick after a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to have Janet's segment. She's got some things she wants to talk to you about. We're going to talk about this feud about parking in Front Royal. I think is one of the big ones. Not huge news, but scandalous. And we like the scandal here. So all that and more when we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
Welcome back to some more Another Look, our news in review show where we talk about news that's been developing across the Shenandoah Valley over the course of the last week. We're here on the River 953 Sports Radio 1450. I'm Dylan, news director here at the River 953. She is Janet Michael, host of the Valley Today, and it's her turn.
Yay.
She's got her stories now.
Yeah, the news that people have been waiting for, though you wouldn't even,
That people have been waiting for. What do you want to talk about? What do you have?
Well, see, now that's a loaded question.
Oh, really?
Because you and I have had how many conversations over the last 48 hours? You know what I really want to talk about, but this is local news we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's not national news. It's local news. And if you're listening to our podcast on the podcast page on the river953.com, you might not know what we're talking about. But,
that could be it too.
But for those guys, today's date is September 28th, 2018. Put 2 and 2 together. There's been a lot going on in national news, and everyone's got an opinion on what's going on nationally. But we're not here to talk about that. We're local.
Maybe we should do like a little spinoff from now through the midterms. That's just So text 635-4121.
No, don't text.
If you think Dylan and I should do our own little 15 or 20 minute snippet of our take on the national political scene.
There's enough of that.
But this is us. People love us. Christine texted last week. She loves us. Well, she loves me.
You got Chris Cuomo and Sean Hannity foaming at the mouths every single night. They don't need us foaming at the mouths, too.
No, but
they don't need us upset
we would be
and yelling
different,
at people.
And we would be good. We would have the local perspective.
What are you? Is that like your football coach pep talk?
Yeah.
Team, let's get out there. Let's be different.
Yes.
Let us be good.
Yes. I think it would be awesome.
It would be fun. It would be fun.
I think it would be awesome.
But I'm also exhausted from all this stuff. So let's keep it
local.
It
is kind of exhausting. And I joked with you. We were talking in the last segment about the Frederick County Board of Supervisors, and it was startling to me, the comparisons.
Oh, Janet.
To what I've watched.
We're not talking national. What's your story?
Squeeze it in.
I see a beautiful.
You want to run me over with your vehicle, don't you?
I'm saying I see that juicy headline there. I don't know how you can stay away from it.
Strasburg man runs over roommate with vehicle. Man. How many pairs of dirty underwear do you got to leave on the floor before your roommate wants to run you over with a car?
Is that your roommate situation? Because we just didn't do the dishes, but your roommate situation is just dirty undergarments lying all over the.
No, my husband's actually pretty good about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's pretty. And the dishes thing, but that's my, if there is a cup in the sink, then the dishes need to be done. This whole, there aren't enough dishes to wash is the dumbest thing I have ever heard a man say.
I'm not getting into it with you, Janet, because you're absolutely dead wrong about that. But we're not going to have this discussion right now.
Maybe we should have a 20-minute spinoff show.
Oh, God. That would be the most, talk about exhausting.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm telling you were going to get texts. People are going to send us a text. They're going to comment on the podcast page.
Yeah.
They're going to email you, news@ruralbroadcasting.net, and they're going to say, Dylan, I think Janet has a great idea.
Yeah, talk more about Tim's dirty undies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're going to say, Dylan, you should run Janet over with your vehicle.
So get into the story. What's going on?
Well, I'm not sure, because apparently there was a kerfluffle between two roommates in Strasburg.
Listen to the guy's excuse. Did you read the guy's excuse at the end of it?
No, there wasn't.
The guy's excuse. Oh, I hope I included it. The guy's excuse was like, I was just trying. It might not have made it to the script, but the guy's excuse was basically, I was trying to move him out of the way. So
yes, okay. So
I was trying to nudge him out of the way.
Someplace in Strasburg. When the trooper got there, he discovered 50-year-old Donald Fred Jones, according to a criminal complaint by the trooper. Jones accused 53-year-old. These are grown men. Can we just stop for a second and talk about these are grown men?
No, this isn't Friends. I mean, this is. These guys are getting up there.
These are not 17-year-old high school boys.
Yeah.
But again, he accused 53-year-old Strasburg resident Christopher Don Miller of pinning him against the brick wall of a garage with his vehicle before driving away. He had injuries on his back and torso. Tire marks at the scene were consistent with his account, first of all.
I was just trying to, if you're moving fast enough to leave tire marks, you're not trying to nudge anybody out of the way.
I don't think so either. So Miller was found Thursday, who said he was just trying to scare the victim and move him out of the way. He was charged with 1 count each of malicious wounding and failing to stop for a crash resulting in an injury. Jones, of course, asked for a protective order against Miller on Monday in anticipation of his release on bond because they both live at the same address.
Yeah. So I think honestly a protective order means that they put duct tape across one half of the room and cut the room in half. Like that episode of Full House. Yeah.
I think they did that in the Brady Bunch too.
Yeah. Probably.
I think, Marcia and Jan, they separated their rooms. I'm pretty sure that's how that worked.
Oh, man. Well, tell me something that's going to restore my faith in humanity. Isn't Winchester Emergency Comm, aren't they getting some new stuff?
All right.
Don't they have some, isn't there some good stuff happening here? Because this is important.
Well, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, a little Big Brotherish.
And I'm gonna give a secret because I know that my husband won't be able to listen to the show tonight. So I'm gonna give a secret out when we're talking about this. So Winchester Communications Emergency Communication Center is utilizing new pinpoint location detecting software for 911 calls, which is kind of cool. So basically, they have a new mapping software that is going to give dispatchers a clearer view of where calls are coming from.
Now, there are some caveats to this. And the main one being that if you're an iPhone user, you need iOS 12, I believe, for this to work. You got it?
I just updated. It's got like animojis and
well, then this message is going straight out to Winchester MCOM. If you're there, guys, track Janet all the time.
Yeah.
Watch her.
Well, you can do that anyway because that's what I do with my husband.
Oh, do you have a tracker set up on his phone, like one of those tracking apps?
No, I don't actually, but we share our location. So I can open up my text messages, click on his little face at the top of my text, and hit info, and a little map pops up. And then I can click on the map, and it takes a minute, and it twirls around, and then it zooms right in. So I know that he was at Target earlier today.
Are you sure Tim...
There better be something for me when I get home this evening.
Are you sure Tim, quote-unquote, shares his info? Or did you go into his settings and...
well, that's probably possible. But he can do the same with me because it goes back and forth. But
this Winchester MCOM thing is unique because it's... I mean, you would think if we could do that with iPhones, why can't they do that with us? Well, of course, there's different cell phones contacting the same cell tower.
Right.
And before, the only precision they could get was they would know which cell tower the cell phones were using, which would give them a general radius of the location. And it was up to the person who was on the phone to report their location to Winchester MCOM. But the big difference here is that victims of domestic abuse who maybe aren't able to talk at the time, or people having a medical emergency who aren't able to talk physically when something's going on.
All they have to do is get the call out.
And then no matter what, people will be able to pinpoint their location if they have either iOS 12 on their iPhone or they have an Android. It's compatible with Android, I believe. Don't get them a jitterbug.
No,
it's not
flip
compatible
phones.
with those flip phones. Do
flip
not
phones
get them.
Don't work.
Don't get those grandparents those.
Do you hear
jitterbugs.
that, Pap Pap? That's one more reason, Pap Pap. Yes.
That and that god awful commercial.
Yeah.
Jitterbug. You almost forgot about that, didn't you?
It's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of cool that it's incredibly helpful. But I like
Very
that.
exciting.
I like knowing, and that's one of those things where you always wonder when cell phones came out. I mean, you wouldn't remember that because you always had a cell phone because you're in that, But
I haven't always had a cell phone, Janet.
yeah, back in the day, you always used to wonder, well, what if I'm somewhere and something happens? Can you even call 911 from a cell phone? And then you could call 911 from a cell phone, but then how are they going to know? What if I don't know where I'm at?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
It's a very helpful tool.
Yeah.
All right, Janet, to the gossip.
Okay, because I know you're excited about this one. So tell me about these
pretty
parking
excited.
exemptions at the Virginia Beer Museum.
Well, all right. Excited isn't really like the word, but I like social media heated exchange kind of stuff. Like I have to say, it's my guilty pleasure is like watching these kind of heated exchanges to a certain degree. I don't like it when it's like political, but on a local matter like this, it gets interesting. When people make it personal, then it gets really interesting to watch like how they react to one another. But basically, essentially what's happening is the Virginia Beer Museum really, really, really wants off-street parking exemptions because it wants to expand its backyard beer garden. And so it's trying to exempt its 14 and 16 Chester Street properties from these parking requirements that Front Royal has. And the reason Front Royal has these parking requirements is because it's concerned about the look of downtown. It's concerned about the accessibility of downtown. And so it's trying to put blanket requirements on certain businesses in Front Royal to make sure that there's enough parking for everybody.
Well, and those two properties back up to the Peyton Street parking lot. Just so you know.
No, there's nearby. And so he's making a lot of arguments saying there is incredibly nearby parking, a lot of parking spaces. He's made some pretty compelling arguments. I think the most compelling argument he made on Facebook, because it's the museum proprietor, David Downs. Mm-hmm. He's been arguing
Who is an attorney, by the way.
Oh, really?
So he should be making compelling arguments.
No, he is. He's made an argument to the Planning Commission, but they recommended nonetheless to deny off-street parking exemptions for the Virginia Beer Museum. It's going to go to Town Council next, and at just like a regular meeting where they actually weren't going to vote on this, a couple of different people came to speak out against the Beer Museum and its parking exemption request at that Town Council meeting, even though a vote wasn't actually happening on it. But I think his most compelling argument is that in March of 2017, there was a study prepared by the Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission, and it found that in the town of Front Royal, there was only 20 to 39% utilization of the unreserved public parking surrounding his museum.
Really?
That's what he says was found in it. Now, again, I'm quoting his Facebook post because in that meeting that I'm referencing, where these citizens or these business owners came forward and said, uphold the recommendation that the Planning Commission made, do not exempt him from this off-street parking regulation. There was one guy in particular that talked, whose name is Ralph Waller. He owns the pawn shop.
On the corner.
The Main Street pawn shop. So basically, he's kind of been in this social media war with Downs. And
Ralph Waller is on Facebook?
Well, no, Downs has targeted him on social media. When I looked up Ralph Waller on Facebook, I couldn't find a profile that said explicitly it was in Front Royal. I found one that very well could be him and looked like him that wasn't very active at all. So I don't think he's too active on Facebook, but he's protested this exemption, and from what I can tell, I think for the most part, it's kind of it might be because of a personal grudge with Downs, because Downs has been pretty vicious to him on Facebook, and it seems like they've had arguments before. Downs on Facebook has referred to him as a pawn shop owner who preys on the financially destitute, enabling their drug addictions or degenerate gambling, ne'er-do-wells needing to fence their stolen goods, and convicted felons looking for unregistered firearms.
He posted that on his Facebook page.
Downs posted that on his own Facebook page.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that these arguments might be political as well, because do you remember the town gazebo? Should we be able to do political protests near the town gazebo?
Yeah.
That whole argument. Ralph Waller apparently is very active in those protests. Mm-hmm. He actually protests against anti-Trump protests outside of his store. So I don't know if that has something to do with any of this, but he's been attacking Waller on Facebook in the midst of his posts. There was one Facebook post that had something like 40 comments on it, all about the Beer Museum's requests, how unjust it was, that it wasn't being granted, how it didn't make sense, how no one's acknowledging it. So, kind of vicious stuff. So Ralph Waller spoke up at that meeting and said he's bullying me and other business owners, or one other business owner, and at least another citizen on Facebook.
It's funny how karma comes back. This is why you should always be a good neighbor, whether it's to somebody who lives next to you and lives next to your house, or whether you're a business that is adjacent to another business.
And it's a two-way street.
Yes.
So it's hard to take a side on this one, I guess, because we don't know all the we don't know all the details.
And it's neither one of theirs.
There's so much about this that we don't know. If there's a feud going on here that's active, it's a lot of it. It's not just on social media, but very interesting stuff. And we'll see what happens with that parking exemption. And frankly, I chose this story because we'll also see what happens with the town gazebo protests and whether or not all that gets moved around. Very interesting stuff. But that's about all the time.
20 minutes. We need a 20-minute spinoff that isn't necessarily on the air because I got to be able to say what I think.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, Janet.
Yeah, that's what my parents used to tell me when I was 10 years old and wanting candy for dinner.
I'll talk with the big wigs when I'm having my steak dinners with corporate. I'll talk to them and see what we come back with. But we're going to be back in a little bit with some more Another Look. When we come back, dumb news. No, what do we call it now?
Wait, what? I don't know.
We never decided. We
had a list of like 14 and neither one of us could come up with it.
We swear we're going to come up with a better name for it. But
or
until
you
then,
come up with it.
Yeah, I'll come up with it. Until then, dumb news. We take a dumb news story from across the world, across the nation, wherever, and we compare and contrast and see whose is better because these things are hilarious. So stick around.
They're always not better. I'm better. I'll always win.
Goodbye, Janet. And stick around and we'll come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
Welcome back to some more Another Look, our news in review show where we talk about news that's been developing over the course of the week in the Shenandoah Valley. Of course, now we're beyond that. Now, we're entering the nation and even the world because it's time for Dumb News, where we compare the dumbest news stories that we've been able to find from across the nation, across the world, over the course of the week. Generally, mine are funnier and more interesting than Janet's.
No, they're not.
So she kind of struggles during the segment, and I feel bad because she struggles so hard.
No.
Janet, I'd love to give you the first shot. But first, I want to remind everybody that if they missed the actual Shenandoah Valley news, which this whole program is really about, they can go ahead and find it on theriver953.com. That's www.theriver953.com. It's on our podcast page, and you're going to find a bunch of other episodes on there, too. If
you can subscribe in the Apple Podcast app, and then it gets delivered to your phone the second we upload it to the website every week.
Boom, bing.
Yeah. Or Google Play Music if you're one of those Android people.
Yeah, forget them. Those aren't our listeners. Just kidding.
Yeah, just not on a flip phone or a jitterbug.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine podcasts on a jitterbug. All right, Janet, go.
All right, so let's take a trip across the pond.
England?
Yes. How do you feel about scary movies?
I like them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you feel about nursery rhymes?
I don't like them as much.
Really?
I kind of grew out of them.
So let me tell you a story. I'm trying to do you, and I'm not doing it very well.
You're not. It's like an episode of Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
How do you feel about nursery rhymes? You've got a problem, okay?
Okay, now you're morphing Dr. Phil into South Park.
Yeah, I am a little bit.
So, residents of a town in England have been haunted by the eerie sounds of a child singing an old nursery rhyme, and it is freaking people out.
Oh, we need some audio to go with this story.
It's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring, the young voice echoed in the night. He went to bed and bumped his head and couldn't get up in the morning. The first time I heard it was the most terrifying thing ever. I went cold and felt sick. I thought, what on earth was that? One resident who did not want to be named told the BBC. It's very haunting. People have said it's like something out of Freddy Krueger, which I'd like to point out isn't the actual name of the movie, but okay.
You did not get this from the BBC.
Alice Randall, who was among those who heard the voice, told The Independent, "It wasn't a ghost or the Nightmare on Elm Street villain, but for some people, the culprit might be even creepier." So imagine you hear this nursery rhyme from these kids in the middle of nowhere, and then you find out that it's caused by spiders.
What are you talking about?
The voice.
What are you talking about? That makes no sense. What are you talking about?
The voice was part of a motion-activated security system at a nearby warehouse.
How big are these spiders that these Brits have?
Spiders took over some of the lenses, and when one of them crawled across, the system triggered and the recording played, sometimes in the middle of the night.
Oh.
It sounded very eerie at that time of night, a spokesperson for the Ipswich Borough Council told the newspaper. But the message wasn't aimed at local residents.
The Ipswich Borough Council. How high up did this issue get?
Apparently, it got multiple news coverage from multiple outlets.
Wow.
The sound is only supposed to act as a deterrent for opportunistic thieves that come onto our property, and it's designed only to be heard by people on our private land, a spokesman for the company that owns the warehouse told the Ipswich Star. So basically, they have this security system that is supposed to be motion activated, and it's supposed to be this kid, this child's voice, like out of some horror movie that starts repeating, "It's raining, it's pouring," freaking people out so they run away and try not to steal something from this warehouse.
That and a British accent, too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something creepy about a child. A child with a British accent is, in the right context, the creepiest thing in the world.
But as it turns out, is there were just a bunch of spiders that were making webs around the camera where this security system was housed. And as much as it creeps me out to say, because it's the one thing I can't stand, a spider crawled across the lens and it would trigger this thing. So here you are at 3 o'clock in the morning and the people in this house are hearing this and had no idea where it was coming from.
You know what I just realized? Have you ever heard a child with a Russian accent? How freaky must that sound? What a contrast. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Honestly, think about that, though. Go ahead and, honestly, if you have heard a child with a Russian accent, text Direct and Connect 635-4121. I'm just curious. If you've got, like, a link you can send me, I'm curious now, because I just realized I've never heard that in my life, and I don't know what that sounds like. I don't know what a cute Russian little toddler sounds like. I'm thinking like a high-pitched, like, ah. I don't know.
I want to know how big Russian spiders are, because if these spiders here are big enough to trigger that security system, I want to know just how big are they in Russia.
Oh, well, those things got to be big because they got to have all that fur for that Siberian snow, Those things are like, those legs have to be 9 feet long to get through snow drifts. The Russians, they got some spiders. Don't get me started on Russian spiders. All right, but my stories aren't as interesting or as good, but I'm going to get through them
as is usual.
Yeah, as usual. It's been a long week, Janet. So there's this woman, and she's driving in her car in Washington State, and a state trooper goes ahead, and he sees that she was speeding a little bit, and he's like, all right, I'm going to pull her over. So he flashes the lights.
I hate when they do that.
Yeah, they're terrible people. They're state troopers that sacrifice so much for us. So he flashes the lights, and apparently she made no reasonable attempt to pull over. She kept driving as if he wasn't there. So he was getting upset, like watching.
I can't see you. You don't exist.
Yeah, so they go for a few hours until finally she hits
a few hours?
No, sorry, a few miles.
Oh.
Sorry.
Whoa, sorry. This is one patient trooper.
This day has gone for a few hours. This was a few miles. And finally she stops at an intersection. And so this trooper says over the loudspeakers, with his lights still on, still right behind her, he says, "Get off the road," over the loudspeakers. So she basically does not move, but she's still at an intersection at a stoplight. So she's obeying all traffic laws, but she's not budging. She's not pulling off the road. So he gets out of the car because she stopped at the stoplight, walks right up to the window of her car, taps on it and says, "What are you doing? Get out, pull over." And she goes, "I will not stop until I reach the Bank of America parking lot." And the trooper goes, "What are you talking about? Pull over right now. You're disobeying an order." And she goes, "I will not. I drive a Prius. I am not pulling over."
Okay.
Everyone was up in arms about this
Did she
story.
forget to charge it before she left, and she was afraid if she didn't get to the bank, she was never going to get to the bank?
This is funny because when you read the headline reads, "Woman refuses to pull over, tells trooper, I drive a Prius." So automatically you think like she's basically saying, "I will not pull over. I am God. I am saving the environment. All you hacks, you're destroying us, you state troopers and your gas-guzzling mobiles. I drive a Prius." But it turns out that the Prius's suspension is so bad that it can't pull over without just completely like breaking down. Like apparently her particular Prius, the tires keep popping off when she goes off the road at all. So she refuses to pull over, and she said, "I will go to the Bank of America parking lot." So then it gets worse and worse.
They know me there. They can put my tires back on my car.
So then the trooper tells her to step out of the vehicle because he's like, "This is ridiculous." And
He thinks she's drunk.
Well, she might be drunk because you know what she says then? He asks her to step out of the vehicle, and then she goes, "I will own your bank account. I will own your house." He asked her name. "None of your business."
Oh, that's not good.
She's going to court now for failing to obey instructions, failing to identify herself, and for obstruction, all of which are misdemeanors.
And the wheels on the bus go round and round. Or fall off, as they say.
My other story, there's not much to it.
2? You have 2?
Well,
it's because you knew that it was going to take 2 stories to beat my one good story because you have a losing streak going.
We don't have much time left, but I'll just say this. It's a guy in Pittsburgh, and he was so drunk that he drove his car, hit a curb, it bounced up, and landed on the roof of a John Eagle grocery store.
Nice.
And the best part of this is, gotta love Pittsburgh. That's the second time that's happened to that John Eagle grocery store. Oh, God. And that's it. With that, we are done with today's Another Look.
Yes.
Thank you guys for listening with us.
Next week will be the birthday episode.
The birthday episode. That's right, because October is our big birthday month. We've got a lot going on. And so look forward to that. If you're just joining us on air and you've missed some of the show, you can always catch what you've missed on the podcast page of Another Look. That's at www.theriver953.com.
And you'll know why that's so annoying if you have to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah. So it's a great podcast. We really hope you guys catch up with us. We've had so much fun talking to you guys on the air and talking to you guys on Text Direct and Connect. And if you like the show, please text in and let us know because we love talking with you guys.
And they may take us off the air if you don't.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that to happen.
Nobody. So that might happen too. So please text Direct and Connect. Save our jobs. And until next time, this is all for Another Look.